What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Lockdown 23 and 1. Today I got some lockup and crime related news coming your way. Starting first, Blueface, a very popular rapper from California, is charged with attempted murder and discharging a firearm in or at an occupied structure. And these are some serious charges. There is a clip going around online of the whole situation where people think that might be Blueface shooting at a vehicle. Well, first and foremost, I seen the video and it definitely looks like the vehicle was attacking the people first. And whoever that was shooting at that vehicle was definitely doing it in self-defense if you were to ask me. So I would guess that the only reason why he's in the courtroom right now being charged with this stuff was from the victim's testimony. Now, if the victim is the driver of the truck that he's accused of shooting at, it's going to be a tricky trial because, like I said, that vehicle definitely looked like he was trying to run people over. But let's jump into the courtroom and see how Blueface acts under bond here and pressure.
Looks like he's got a number of people supporting him in the courtroom today, including, I've been told, a fiance and some friends and some business associates.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. I am going to set bail in this case based on the nature of the charges. The allegations are quite serious and could have been much worse. $50,000 is a reasonable amount of bail. Bail will be set in the amount of $50,000 cash or surety.
I'm going to set bail on this case because these are some very serious allegations, and the situation could have ended up much worse. So we're going to go ahead and give him bail. Sounds to me like the more serious the charges, the easier it is to get a bond over there in that county. And looking back at all the times I've been in the courtroom and went in front of the judge for bonds, these people must have hated me or something. I must have had, paint this guy up and send him to prison on my face because, a simple grand larceny or something. They kept my ass in there.
It's likely that Mr. Porter is going to make that bail amount upon his release. He is ordered to comply with standard conditions of release. He's ordered to stay away from and have no contact with Cantabious Trailer, the alleged victim of this case. Obviously, that shouldn't be a problem. Mr. Porter, you're advised, and you will be advised in writing, that if you violate that order through any means, including third parties or any other means, that would likely revoke your release, or there could be other penalties. You must stay out of trouble. That's a condition of anyone's release. Of course, stay in contact with your attorneys, and of course, make the necessary court appearances that they advise you to make. If you fail to comply, a warrant for your arrest could issue. You would face extradition back to the state of Nevada from California or wherever else you may be found. Do you understand everything, Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Now, I do apologize for the video quality, but that was the best that I could find. I did happen to find a really good quality photo of the entire courtroom, though. It has been well overdue. It's time for a thorough courtroom analysis. Would you look at the ambience from the sunroof in this courtroom? Is that one of Elon Musk's new solar panels? These things are supposed to be mini panels built to charge the whole building. Unreal. NASA LEDs. Shines like a star on this drop top, that's for sure. These guys got some legendary stories to tell when they get back. And look at the 5 Alienware monitors. Unreal. I've never seen so many in the courtroom at once. Judge still playing by the rules. Safety first. Carbon fiber mask. Made from the tears of Scat Pack owners wishing they had a Hellcat. One of these days, Brittany will let you. Got that one poor girl here all by herself. But y'all need to get yourselves some filing cabinets. This just makes the whole place look junked up. And what's up with the lawn chair from Home Depot? Come on, get some chairs, y'all. And last but not least, I see Blueface's corner has a bottle of the White Lightning. But best of luck to Blueface and his team, man. Hopefully he can beat these crimes and move on with what he has going on in life. Now, next up, we're going back to the courtroom once again, and this is the grand finale to the Darrell Brooks case. He's about to be sentenced to a lot of time, ladies and gentlemen, and the people's response in the courtroom is what's to be expected, I guess you could say.
On the need to protect the community. I referenced this earlier. There's really 3 primary reasons for the sentences I will impose here today. One is punishment, one is to protect the community, and the other is to provide justice and closure to the victims. Because under that category of need to protect, the court does get to consider the impact of these crimes on the victims.
Great opening statements.
I went through at length in reviewing all of those victim impact statements. I certainly didn't go through every single one, just highlighting some of them, but doing so with purpose, because it is very clear to this court that Mr. Brooks has caused carnage, mayhem. It has resulted in many people suffering from PTSD, from mental and emotional trauma that will take a lifetime to recover from, and for some, perhaps, if at all. Death, injury, confusion, and panic as you drove 7 or so blocks through the Christmas parade, never once stopping or seemingly caring about the wake of carnage that you left. 4 of those blocks were turned into a scene that frankly is no different than a war zone. On counts 1 through 6, this court is imposing a life sentence without the possibility or eligibility for extended supervision consecutive to one another. 1 life sentence for Virginia Sorensen. 1 life sentence for Leanna Owen.
Rest in peace.
1 life sentence for Tamara Durand. 1 life sentence for Jane Kulik. 1 life sentence for Bill Hospel. And 1 life sentence for Jackson Sparks. I've considered the enhancer and the additional 5 years that I could impose.
Enhance his ass.
But I don't need to really order that because I've not made him eligible
Just
for extended supervision, and it would only be to increase his time on initial confinement. These charges alone and these convictions without the enhancer carry a maximum of 12 and a half years. Because of the enhancer, a total of 17 and a half years. And under Wisconsin law, the 5 years is added to the initial term of confinement. So what could be 7 and a half years is a maximum of 12 and a half years. And I'd ask that everyone no longer show any reaction to the sentence so I can get through this. On counts 7 through 67, on each count, I will impose a total sentence of 17 and a half years. 12 and a half years of initial confinement, plus 5 years of extended supervision, consecutive to any other sentence that I've imposed here today. That is 762 and a half years of initial confinement and 305 years of extended supervision on top of the life sentences that I've imposed. That is 17 and a half years, sir, for Nicole White. 17 and a half years for Eleanor Anders. 17 and a half years for Sasha Catalan Castillo. 17 and a half years for Maura Gilchrist. 17 and a half years for Justin Gullickson. 17 and a half years for Harry Guilfoy. 17 and a half years for Aiden Lofgren. 17 and a half years for Theo Maza. 17 and a half years for Tyler Pudliner. 17 and a half years for Connor Tank. 17 and a half years for Eric Teague. 17 and a half years for Adelia Maffioli. 17 and a half years for Kelly Graybow. 17 and a half years for Josh Craner. 17 and a half years for Riley Rogers.
I can barely breathe.
17 and a half years for Caden Rogers. 17 and a half years for Tucker Sparks. 17 and a half years for Isabella Bartlett. 17 and a half years for Yaritzi Becerra Montez. 17 and a half years for Samantha Coelho. 17 and a half years for Madison Hollingsworth.
Just keeps on rolling.
17 and a half years for Mackenzie Hollingsworth. 17 and a half years for Mitchell Lampine. 17 and a half years for Kathleen Pielmeyer. 17 and a half years for Julia Schleichow. 17 and a half years for Olivia Stover. 17 and a half years for Jennifer Stover. 17 and a half years for Jesselyn Torres. 17 and a half years for Alice Urell. 17 and a half years for Charlotte Urell. 17 and a half years for Vivian Urell. 17 and a half years for Tamara Rosentrader. 17 and a half years for Betty Strang. 17 and a half years for Maria Alvarez Dominguez. 17 and a half years for Gregoria Romelia Perez. 17 and a half years for Elliot Hallmark. 17 and a half years for Benjamin Hallmark. 17 and a half years for Patrick Heppy. 17 and a half years for Lori Locken. 17 and a half years for Marisol Lopez Gutierrez. 17 and a half years for Adair Lopez Rubelar. 17 and a half years for Juan Marquez. 17 and a half years for David Marquez. 17 and a half years for William Mitchell. 17 and a half years for Jason Petchloff. 17 and a half years for Margaret Pachulis.
Just when you think it's ending.
17 and a half years for Yamilet Perales Alvarez. 17 and a half years for Island Perales Alvarez. 17 and a half years for Ashley Perales Alvarez. 17 and a half years for Jose Perales Alvarez. 17 and a half years for Maria Perez. 17 and a half years for Camila Perez Gonzalez. 17 and a half years for Isaac Foglia. 17 and a half years for Deborah Ramirez. 17 and a half years for Charles Green. 17 and a half years for Lily Green. 17 and a half years for Brinley Harris. 17 and a half years for Kelsey Knapp. 17 and a half years for Owen Ricciati.
So I'm going to wrap it up right there. There's actually about 10 or 15 minutes more of smoke, but I think y'all got the point. Over 700 years in prison, not to mention, what was it, 6 or 7 life sentences? This guy ain't going home, man, and chances are when he gets to where he's going, someone might be trying to take him out. He hurt a lot of families, man. Kids just trying to celebrate the holidays. My condolences to everyone that was hurt in this situation. That's all I got for y'all today. Hopefully you enjoyed a couple courtroom clips. And stay tuned. Tomorrow's episode will be the part 2 that we did yesterday from Maricopa County, Orange County, in a prison from Plainfield, Indiana. Got about another hour worth of content to react to on that. So don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, notification bell, ladies and gentlemen. I don't want you missing a thing. And as always, I salute to every last one of you been supporting me since the beginning, and everybody who's just now joining the lockdown compound. Y'all be safe and stay free.